Hi, in this short video, we're going to talk about the well-architected framework for Microsoft Azure. So we'll give you a quick overview of what it is and how it fits into the overall cloud management platform. So there's two frameworks to know. One of them is the CAF, the Cloud Adoption Framework for Microsoft Azure, and the URL is aka.ms/CAF, and that's to do with setting up the core infrastructure and the core platform before you put your workloads in there. Now, the well-architected framework is also available with the short URL aka.ms/WAF, and that framework is there designed to help you architect your actual workload. So the services that you're going to run into your cloud system to help make sure that they um, run using best practices and are architected and designed correctly. And each one you should have evaluate against 5 pillars of the well-architected framework. So what are the 5 pillars that we need to evaluate our workloads against? We start with cost optimization. So we look at the cost, and then we look at operational excellence, performance efficiency, reliability, and of course, security. So what we'll do is we'll go through each one of these briefly, and then we'll talk about how we design our workloads to make sure we have these things in mind. What are the things to consider? What are the tools available in the platform? And then a quick summary by looking at how we balance those things together. So let's start with cost management. Let's go into that in a little bit more detail. So the idea for that is to make sure your resources and your organization is getting the best value from the cloud and not wasting money. So for cost optimization, we've got to look at things like making sure we're using the correct licensing models, the correct SKUs, things like using reservations where we can save costs that way, and also things like sizing your infrastructure correctly, but sometimes scaling up and scaling down. So these are some of the things that we need to think about when we talk about cost optimization. Some of the tools in the platform that are available to help you do this are things like Azure Advisor. That gives you, actually, that one gives you recommendations across all of the 5 pillars, and cost is one of the first ones in there. So you can always take a look at that. Other tools that are available are things like tagging. So you can use tagging to help with your cost reporting so you can get a better view of what's going on in there. And as I mentioned earlier, auto scaling. So you can set scaling rules and parameters for your application. So that could be things like AKS or VM scale set, or even web applications. So you can scale up at certain times, or if the resources hit a certain level, and you can scale back down when you don't need that much resource. So that all these kind of things help you manage your costs. The next one to think about is operational efficiency, and that deals with things like making sure our systems are optimized, managed, and maintained and kept up to date, as well as monitored properly. So we need to know if our systems are running. Are they running properly? Do we have any issues? Do we know about it if we've got any issues? And we can use things like Azure Monitor, application insights, alerts, and also automation tools such as Azure Automation and Update Manager as well, to keep our VMs, for example, keep them patched automatically in those kind of systems to help us make sure we're operationally efficient. So the next pillar is a performance efficiency. So what we want to do is make sure we optimize the system to make sure we've got the right performance when we need it. So we can do that using things like scaling to meet user demand when our load is high, and also scaling that back down when we need to, and also understanding when we need to scale up and when we need to scale down. So again, using the similar tools that we talked about earlier about auto scaling, and also monitoring can help with these kind of performance metrics, and making sure we've got the right SKUs of the services. So whether it's a VM or web application, making sure we've got the right SKUs of the services available to ensure that we can meet those performance demands. So the next pillar is reliability. Reliability is there to ensure that our applications are resilient and can recover from failure as well. And it involves implementing and maintaining redundancy within our solutions, things like backup, disaster recovery strategies, all this to maintain application system availability and minimize downtime. Some of the tools in the platform that allow us to do this are using things like the Azure Backup Vaults, recovery services, as well as purge protection for data storage and key vault storage, and also things like architecting our applications to run across availability zones within a region, and also across regions using things like load balancers. So the last pillar, which is security, is one of the most important. And we use that to implement and safeguard our data and our systems from security threats. And there's a lot of tools available in the platform to help us do that, from threat detection, encryption, network security, and identity protection. It helps us to make sure we secure our systems right from the design of our workloads through to the code and the deployment and ongoing management of those systems. One of the areas that you have to consider is balancing the pillars as well. So, what we don't want to do is end up in a situation where we've seen it happen before, where a customer may want to reduce their costs, but what happens is they compromise on security. Now, reducing the costs and lowering your security could leave you vulnerable to specific attacks. So, we've got to balance all these things and understand the risks and the outcomes of each of these options in your design. There's also a free well-architected framework assessment that you can use. So you can use that against your own workloads or the design of your services. So what you can do, go to the link that we're going to show here, run through each of the pillars, and you'll be asked a bunch of questions, put in your answers, and it will give you a score at the end. It'll also give you links to the documentation with all the recommendations you need to make sure you're compliant with the well-architected framework. So I hope you found that useful. That was an overview of the well-architected framework. If you want to know more, check out our blog on our website at lanet.co.uk. And from there, you can also book a call with us if you want to know more.